Hello everyone, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I am NORCAM Jason.
Oh, we're doing the NORCAM.
Yes. There's been a lot of changes since the last time we kept this.
I officially work here now.
Yes.
So that would, and you can do like a little fancy graphic.
Yeah, I can like,
name from.
it says like Eddie Brophy and I just like, wow, and it like disappears to the other side and now says NORCAM Eddie.
NORCAM Eddie. And welcome to the show that we do once a year.
Yes, we're keeping our tradition alive.
We are keeping the tradition alive, and I'm keeping my tradition. If I have to look behind and remember the name of the show, 1800 Seconds of the Ring Pro Wrestling. Man, this is so much easier when you didn't get so technical with the title. But let's jump into the itinerary.
Yes. Alrighty.
What is one of the biggest stories out there right now?
I mean, the headline has to be what Punk's saying. You know, that is really his first interview since leaving AEW and returning to WWE.
Now, I think we got a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Punk's back in WWE.
Yeah, that's twofold. Yeah, like that's a loaded.
I mean, we could spend the whole half hour, so we'll try to brush through it. But yeah, Punk, he's out of AEW. Mm-hmm. Luke Perry's son is looking mostly to blame.
Scapegoat.
I did not have that on my bingo card. I did not have Dylan's son being the reason why we get CM Punk back in WWE, but weirder things have happened.
Yeah, it is a strange occurrence, all over some real glass. Like,
it's a story with many different perspectives.
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping one day that we'll actually get some footage or some like actual tangible evidence.
I mean, there's those NDAs that nobody can talk about certain things, but still, it's.
But the unthinkables having Punk is back.
Yes.
The downfall to that was Punk came back and went on the injured list
almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
It's become, unfortunately, like a running joke with him that returns. I don't know how many returns he's had over the last like 2.5 years, but it's like comes back to AEW and makes his grand return, injured after winning the world title, comes back again, challenges Moxley at All Out.
And yet, it's still in my mind, it's still the most interesting thing that's happened in AEW.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic to get to.
Well, that didn't. I mean, so Punk's back.
Yes.
All seems right with the world. Admittedly, I did not handle the death of Bray Wyatt very well, so it was actually, obviously it was very tragic that he died at my age, 36, but I mean, to get him back, it felt like such a tease. So there was somewhat of a light at the end of the tunnel in that, some of our favorites come back. We lost some of our favorites. I know you haven't seen the documentary yet.
I'm waiting. I'll probably watch that tonight.
Highly recommend that. But going back to AEW news, Tony Khan as a boss.
It's not looking good. I don't know if it's happenstance or what, but like that day, it felt like he put on his like big boy boss pants and was just like, oh, let me cut some of the fat off of here. Like, just make him release. I mean, that used to be the saving grace with Tony Khan. It was like, hey, you have a contract and you're gonna serve your time. Like that's not seemingly not a thing anymore. Well,
other than the obvious, some of the most explosive stuff to come out of that Punk interview was the fact that he not only didn't have a no compete clause, like
could have immediately showed up.
Yeah,
which was crazy.
Could have left Wembley on that Sunday and walked into Monday Night Raw immediately the next day.
Yeah,
it's not looking good. I mean, frankly, a lot of my interest in AEW was solely because of Punk returning.
It certainly became AEW starts, this interesting new company, the rise of Cody, and kind of got stalled and stammered because they were like, oh, Cody's not going to be a top guy. He can't win the world title. And then it's like, okay, but he's still there. Cool. He's my guy. For me, he was my guy.
Yeah.
And you just wait and you're like, all right, we'll see this company evolve. And then it kind of dips. And then Punk's, pandemic, they get through that. They probably did a better job than WWE in most of the pandemic, keeping things interesting. I'll give them credit for that. And then we get out of that and Punk's here now. And, to me, it was always like, we have our captain. He's the guy. He can bring us to the glory land now, like, of being that top company. And then it just slowly fell apart. Like,
And the thing that I think is so funny is people make all these comparisons to WCW. Put some respect on the WCW name. This is more like Dixie Carter or TNA, all right?
It is, but it isn't. But it's not a great recipe.
No.
It's Tony Khan being the kid with an unlimited allowance that goes to the toy store. I was like, I want that. I want that. I want that. And not realize like, Billy, you know we have these awesome toys right over here in your toy box. Yeah, that's cool, but this one's shiny and I just want this one.
Someone did not play General Manager mode in SmackDown vs. Raw, and it shows, Tony Khan. It shows. So we'll get into WWE related news. Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion. And you're in a progress report.
He's doing a great job. He deserves to be at the top of the card. I just don't like the idea of multiple world titles.
I've never been a fan of it, quite frankly. It's just tough when you have a roster, and again, we were not expecting Punk to be back. We were not expecting a lot of breakout stars even. I mean, Sami Zayn in my mind has always been a star, but in the last year, 2 years, he's really gained momentum. Just a sort of LA Knight, I didn't see that one coming. I'm an LA Knight guy. I'm entertained by him. People can say what they want.
I will say the World Heavyweight title is the most interesting it's been since its creation.
Right.
Especially right now, you have a lot of moving pieces. You have Drew McIntyre, who seemingly recreated his career.
Yet another superstar who, first off, I never would have seen that return coming. And in almost kind of Cody Rhodes' way, got let go, came back with a vengeance, and
he did well, but as a face, he was just kind of there. Even as a heel, he was just there. This is a different side of...
This is him finding his stride.
Yeah, he found his voice finally. You know, he had the look, he figured out how to... a presence, he just didn't have that personality. He found his personality now.
Oh, yeah. I'm not... And the thing is, I'm not saying that, like, you know, you have to be more comedic and all, but the thing is, like, his gimmick or his character, whatever it is about him, it's like, I liked him. Didn't have anything against him. Great athlete, great in the ring, but... take him or leave him. Yeah. But as soon as he started with the Punk t-shirts, as soon as he started laying him with the Seth Rollins,
he's got it. He's got a voice now. Like, and that's phenomenal for a guy. That's another soldier you could put on the field that's like, oh wow, this is a top of the roster guy now.
Right.
So
now, what are our thoughts on the Bloodline with the addition of The Rock?
It's okay. Like, Rock is great, and it's very entertaining. I just don't know if I fully buy into it being a stronger version of the Bloodline than it was a year ago.
I see it being phased out within the next year.
I wouldn't even say that long.
Right.
I think it's relatively quick. Like, this is going to get...
As of Sunday. It's...
Yeah.
Well, then that brings us to Cody Rhodes, so we can kind of move through this itinerary here. Cody Rhodes, I think he's walking out with the title.
This is the crowning achievement. I have, you know, not to jump ahead to Mania's thing, but I have never looked forward to a WrestleMania main event story as much as I have here. It's a hard sell. There have been great moments.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, it's like, wow, this is fantastic. Like, this is the end game. Like, they had done a masterful job of creating that story, going from last year where it's that we lost.
Right.
We knew we were gonna win. We everybody calling the shots. We lost and we had to sit there, and I love that shot of him sitting there in the ring, defeated, telling everybody I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, that's just emotional. Like, that's beautiful.
Now, before we move on to some of our next topics here, do we even bother touching or addressing the elephant in the room, or could we just acknowledge that Vince McMahon is as big of a piece of excrement as he left on someone's head? End of story. It's sick, it's twisted, it almost damn near ruined wrestling for me. I
think Mark said it best, is like, how does a guy like that leave a trail of, like, evidence? As horrific as all the evidence is.
It's in a lot of weird ways. You could even say it's almost like he wanted to get caught. But
I mean, I'm looking forward to 5-10 years down the road when the documentary of this, because it will come out, and we get all these details that we had no idea. There's so many, you know, the Nick Khan element, the Triple H element, Stephanie, the coming and going, all of the John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know all these things and how all these pieces, how all these people interacted and just dealt with each other for this time, knowing that this man was doing these horrible things.
Again, I did not have Vince McMahon and X amount of producers from Nickelodeon being awful predators on my bingo card.
Oh.
So moving right along to now, you have these collections here.
Yes.
Is there anything in particular you want to discuss?
No, just kind of going through like some of the more prominent like books in pro wrestling history. Like I think like if you're a pro wrestler, like the Mick Foley thing is essentially the Bible.
I actually just got that at Sabres for like $5.
I remember you saying well, that's kind of that's what inspired me to bust this out. But it's essentially like the Bible for like pro wrestling of like wow, like and how to write a wrestling book.
I would argue that in Bret Hart's book. I also
I remember you saying that.
I got the Brian Gertz one, and I haven't cracked open the one on Vince, not to go back to Ringmaster, but I mean, I'd say personally for me, it's shirts and it's books. Those are the big ones. It was toys. For a while it was, but I mean, there's only so many times you can justify a $25 to $30 action figure just sitting in a closet for a display case.
Sure. I mean, some of the other ones I grabbed here is the Arn Anderson book, which is great because he does it all within kayfabe, which is insider term for like believing it. So he's in character the whole time. So he's telling a biography in character as opposed to giving you. It's almost a little like defeating though at sometimes. So you're like, just tell us what really happened in this moment. So
that's an interesting one.
I have the Bret Hart one, Broken Hearts. This one was hard to read, like telling you details that you didn't know, like before his like passing, like I guess he had a house that was being built. He never got to enjoy the new house. It's messed up.
I didn't even know this one existed.
The Hardy Boys. This is great. I recommend checking this one out because like if you come from that like DIY backyard wrestling kind of idea, like this is like another like must read because it shows you like how integral and fantastic like of a job like the Hardys would do to like make their own promotion and like they talk about at one point they're like, oh, we needed to make a wrestling ring, so they had a giant plot of land that their father owned. They went out to the woods and they were cutting down trees to make like an area to build a ring, and they're like, oh, we have all this debris, let's light it on fire, and they end up like causing a huge forest fire. Lots of interesting stories. He talks about being paid to go to like prom with some girl because he was jacked up, Matt Hart, a good-looking guy for a young age, and he was paid by someone's prom with their daughter.
I can honestly say I don't have that problem, nor will I ever have that problem.
And then I think this one is ideal for you. Sometimes the Idiot Guide to Pro Wrestling.
That's very flattering. Thank you. Well, moving right along here, then. Top 5 wrestling returns.
I mean, I put mine down here. Real simple. I go from Cody.
No.
He's the benchmark in terms of coming back in my terms because that is a guy that left broken, defeated, almost a joke.
Yeah.
Went and did the impossible of creating his own company and coming back a legitimate superstar at the top of the card. There's Punk, which is more of a shock value of I never thought I would see that ever again after all the comments and everything. The Hardys in terms of just being a great moment of like he kind of knew it was happening, but he didn't have that verification, and then they were another story of like rebuilding their career at that time. The Bray Wyatt one, which it was like it had so much potential. It certainly feels like it was going to be something bigger, but and then I actually tail in with X-Pac because that is the launch of like the next iteration of DX, and the history with that is
that was an incredible Raw because that ushered in my mind, that was the night. I mean, if people could argue that like, oh, Austin winning the titles at WrestleMania 14, that was the beginning of the Attitude Era, and for me it was honestly like I personally think it was that coupled with the following the Raw after that WrestleMania and the return of X-Pac and everything that kind of just all the residual effects of WrestleMania going forward. So I agree with that. I would agree with Wyatt. That was a big one for me. I would say Shawn Michaels. That was a really big one.
In terms of like somebody who's gone and you were like physically could not go again.
Yeah.
And okay, 10-year career?
Oh yeah.
After that, that's incredible.
So I go Wyatt, I go Michaels. Obviously, I'm gonna go Punk. That was especially. It was cool to get 2 different Punk returns. The AEW one, which is the big one, and then
we've had a lot of Punk returns over the last
we've
year.
had a lot, and
2 years.
I'm okay with that though. Now, are these people that left the company, or are these just back from injury?
I think it's whatever you want to interpret it. It's going from one point of where they were either out defeated or they triumphantly overcame something to come back. So
Because I have a soft spot. I mean, you have your DX person on here. I would say that when the New Age Outlaws came, specifically when Road Dogg came back at the Royal Rumble, I thought that was a really special moment. Again, I may not necessarily agree with a lot of stuff personally on there.
Oh,
but,
sure,
it's always great to get old favorites back. And again, this about I'm not the world's biggest fan, but Edge's return I thought was really special.
That's another one overcoming injury where you wrote them off. You're like, okay, we put that behind us. That's never going to happen because of X, Y, Z. You know what? In that same vein, we probably mentioned like Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I mean, I could, and I'm just kind of trying to spitball off the top of my head here, but like even like Warrior coming back, Jake the Snake going into the Hall of Fame.
Warrior coming back in the sense of being welcomed back into the company,
being
making right with everybody that essentially did wrong, and 2 days later he passed away.
Yeah,
so
wrestling
you can't
has that weird effect.
Make amends more than what the Ultimate Warrior did. Yeah.
So what do you have on your watch?
Well, before we jump there, we skipped over AEW. I don't know if you.
I was trying to keep up with the time.
Oh, we're good. But just a rundown. What's going on over there?
I don't even think they know, if I'm being honest. I mean, I went from really enjoying the product, and again, a lot of that was the Punk influence. I love the idea of Forbidden Door. Yeah. I love that we're getting a lot of New Japan guys in. It's just, look, I like Samoa Joe. I don't have anything against. I know the man, but it's just he's
aging.
He's aging, but he's not, in my mind. That's not who you should have as champ right now. But then again, I don't
know who I'd put necessarily
give it to.
Put in that spot. He says he doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to be a Champhausen?
Oh, I thought you said Danielson.
No, I said Danhausen.
Danhausen. Yes.
Get out of here with that.
Another Tony toy that just
he'd be an excellent champ.
Falls to the bottom of the toy box. But yeah, I don't know what's going on.
It's really hard to have the title on MJF as long as I had it on him, take it off, and then it's just like, here you go, Joe. Like, we'll deal with this for now, because that was the thing. There aren't really a lot of, obviously there's some notable new additions to the roster, but there really weren't a lot of, I don't know, like big marquee names for me in that company right now. And again,
they don't have a flag bearer in my mind. No. There is not one guy you point to. There are hints of it with people, but I don't see that guy. Like Punk was that guy for me.
Yeah.
But is it an MJF? He works better as a heel.
Well, and that brings us to the next talk. Where is he? What's going on? Is this injury? Is he?
Supposedly it's injury, but.
Well, I guess especially because where Punk does say maybe it was because Punk because he was a bigger name, but do all of these superstars have no compete clause? Could any one of them at any given time say, I hate it here, I want out of this contract?
I don't know if it's so much about that. I think it's more as soon as contract's up. Well, yeah, maybe that's the same thing. I don't know. I think Tony has to agree to let him go, but
who knows? Maybe we could see MJF.
I don't want to see him Sunday.
I
love him. Don't get me wrong, but it's an extra piece where it's just like I want a finale to my story right now. I don't need him thrown into the main event scene right away.
Well,
to cause confusion. Yeah.
Not to hop, skip, and jump over this, but since we're on that topic, this is a two-parter, so I could kind of piggyback my what to watch with the finish to make. Okay. Obviously, spoiler, I don't want to give much away. Well, obviously I don't want to give anything away to you. I don't want to give anything away to anyone who's watching, but the Bray Wyatt documentary ends in a fashion that opens the door.
I heard this little spoiler.
Yeah, so there's now the new prediction out there was before Roman ascended to the top of the mountain, so to speak, who was the one he had to get over, basically, Bray Wyatt. There's a new kind of rumor out there that you could sort of factor in a little cameo appearance from a certain someone to help. I don't see that as much as I see
so out of left field. Like
it's too out of left field, but again, it's kind of an interesting idea. I personally see more of like the Gaga ending of like you have everyone in the bloodline screwed coming out and
on your left moment as it would be to Captain.
I know as a gigantic Marvel fan that you're waiting for your Avengers and
assemble everybody's here.
I don't think I'm off in this, but I know that I'm anticipating, and I won't be disappointed if it doesn't happen, but I'm absolutely anticipating Last Shatter. Austin makes his return, takes out The Rock, and then it's basically he's the one that clears the runway. Cody taking in for a landing. I took this major piece of trash out. That's honestly, like, I want the locker room to empty out. I would like to see Cody on everybody's shoulders, like a la Bret Hart, WrestleMania 10. There's a lot. Basically, the only thing you could do that would really make me be like, why, is have Roman beat Cody. That's the only thing you could do to make me be like, this show was crap.
Yeah.
Everything else, like the matches, the match card is really good.
Yeah. Exciting. This has a chance to be an all-time greatest WrestleMania.
Even if you could say, well, this is like a 2-match show. I don't think you could.
There's sleepers in there.
You got Gunther and you got Sami Zayn.
You've got
the IC title
Logan Paul, which who always puts on a. I hate the guy personally, but he's got it. He knows how to do it.
Yep.
You've got the tag ladder match.
Yep, the
fantastic.
6-pack.
Yep,
that's. And I guess they're separating those belts. So
that's the rumor. That's a possibility because you must grab both.
I would like them both belts not only separate, but I would like them sent back and come back with better design.
New design.
New design. That would be great. Yeah.
Women's title match. That's another way. Like, wow, 3 years ago, that would have felt like a huge match, and it's an abundance of so much good stuff right now that you're like, oh wait, that can be fantastic. Like the Jimmy and Jay match should be, I think, great.
Obviously, McIntyre and Rollins, that's going to be a great one.
Fantastic with Punk on headset. You can't go wrong there. I'm sure we're forgetting stuff that it's like, oh yeah, this, oh yeah, that. AJ and LA Knight is another one it's just there, and that has a.
I won't lie, that one's getting kind of downright silly at this point. Did you see the footage of them rustling around at?
But I'm here. Not a weak match by any stance. Like there's been manias where you're like, why is this here?
I prefer it when, and this goes back to when people criticize the Firefly Funhouse match and the Haunted House of Horrors and all those different matches. I prefer it when wrestling's kind of goofy. I prefer it when it's a little silly. I prefer it when it's
charcuterie board of goodness.
Yeah, like
this week where it's like, I'll have a little bit of this, the technical wrestling. I'll have a little bit of story. I'll have a little bit of.
There's certain things you cannot look down on certain matches and then convince me that you are ever an Undertaker fan legitimately, because that was the majority of the Undertaker's character. That was the majority of every match he had. So you can't sit here and be like, oh, that match is so dumb. Did you like the Buried Alive match? Because I like those, and those matches were insanely just out there. Yeah. Like, we're literally going to watch a man get buried alive tonight, and nobody gets arrested. Pro wrestling.
I mean, we're still got time. I don't know if you've got more points to make for Mania or not.
Honestly, it's not that I'm a one-match guy, because obviously the tag match, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, obviously, the showdown between Reigns and Cody. That's kind of where my focus is at right now. I mean, this is one of the few times with Mania that almost like a Mania 14, like, even the matches that aren't jumping out and like saying like, oh, this has potential to be such a great match, I'm just kind of looking forward to having in my mind, like, I want to see obviously the main event match for both nights, but I just want to take the trip from beginning to end, and I haven't wanted that in a very long time. I think
I love that it's 2 nights now. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, it's a whole weekend of events. Like, this is gonna be. I mean, I've missed the singular night, but in terms of since they've gone down this path, this is fantastic. Like, I love that it's built as well as it is.
And that was because of the pandemic, right?
Yeah. And they were just like, I guess we'll keep it now.
The first time that they did that, I remember thinking like, this has potential to be a lot of fun. I remember night 1 was. That was the Boneyard match, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just remember as soon as I know, I was like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for a show shot in a storage locker, basically.
Yeah.
They did a really good job, all things considered. Yeah, I don't really go back and watch anything from that show. Like, it's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell. I think I haven't for personal reasons, because among like the pandemic, there was stuff kind of going on in my life. I'm like, I'd rather not, but. There's a part of me that you did find some humor in it. Like, I remember the shirt that became wildly popular was on the internet was the biggest fan of WrestleMania was the overhead fan in the performance center.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I wasn't there. Sure.
No, I mean, and it's funny to go back and think of what has transpired, what has happened since I mean, this company, I mean, holy God, like...
It's been sold, like, you go back a year ago, it's been sold, new owners, okay, Vince is Vince is back,
Yep.
Okay, he wormed his way back in, supposedly that's how we got to the ending of last year's Mania, I don't know, take that for what you will. Stuff comes out about Vince sells stock, Vince is gone, all this terrible news, Stephanie's gone, like, Punk is back, like, it's just...
The Rock is on the board.
The Rock is on the board now, like, as a key member, essentially over Triple H.
Yep.
It just blows your mind.
Well, keeping that in mind, Triple H, if any, involvement in Mania, what do you say? Just from a character standpoint.
No, I think those days are done. He knows. Like, it's best to say.
I don't expect him to brawl the rest.
No, but just, I mean, I don't see like and I'm gonna make this decision. Like, I don't see it. Could be, but I don't. He doesn't need to.
I mean,
he can come out and welcome people on one of the nights like he's done, and that's all you need him for.
Well, I mean, before we run out of time here, do we want to acknowledge Hall of Fame?
Yeah, we can quickly run through it.
Again, it's not one of the more stacked. I mean, in terms of.
Yeah, they've definitely changed the process of how they do it, which is fine because it was getting a little hectic and crazy over years of like, wow, there's 12 people here or whatever the number was, and it's like they're all superstar, top of the card people, and then you get to 1 year and you're like,
well, and even in terms of getting who I necessarily wanted, didn't exactly happen the way I wanted to, but I mean, obviously Cyndi Lauper still needs good in there.
Yeah.
I would like to see Demolition in there.
I mean, that's a lawsuit thing. Maybe that gets worked out at some point. They have the credentials. Yeah. So, certainly.
I absolutely am not disappointed with Paul Heyman going in. I think it's much deserved. Regardless of how you feel about the man in real life, I mean...
No. People in pro wrestling, I think he has done a masterful job of, mending a lot of those fences. People make the jokes about bounce checks and stuff like that, but... the guy, he is not one of the worst people in pro wrestling. He's definitely a giver as opposed to... Yeah,
if he hasn't soiled anyone's head, I'd like to think that you're probably... And the standards are very low now, I feel like, in terms of, like, when you hear stories, it's like, we've joked about, because, I mean, obviously we've talked about collections, but kind of avoiding the shirts with, like, a single superstar on it, like... We both kind of agreed we would never own a piece of Ric Flair memorabilia.
Yeah, that's not my thing. I'm not a Flair guy. He's there. There are worse people, but he's not on my list of good people.
Now, I think was it Mania 38? Yeah, when Vince did the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if you think I'm an a-hole, then I guess I'm an a-hole. Then WWE Shop came out with all those shirts. This is like the Batmobile, the Taco Bell thing, where like you can win the Batmobile. I want to meet. I know you're out there. I want to meet the people that got that shirt, and the first thought they have, and they're walking out in public, and it's like, oh no.
And bury that in your closet, and you're like, maybe this is something I can sell on eBay.
Yeah, maybe we just burn that back.
Yeah, maybe
let's not free will that. Or goodwill that.
Let that be out in the general public. But no, there are some other names too. Besides Paul Heyman, I think that's well deserved. USA Express.
Yep.
I didn't necessarily see that.
I didn't see that. I figured IRS would go in before.
Yeah, that to me is the more WWF or WWE name to go in. Barry Windham on his own, good enough career to certainly be there. In the pantheon of pro wrestling, USA Express isn't really like hardly regarded. It's just like, oh yeah, they were a top team, I guess. Like,
I mean, Muhammad Ali, I'm fine with.
The celebrity, in terms of celebrities, like he's there here at the first WrestleMania as a ref, so he definitely has his place in terms of cachet. Like there have been worse people to go into the Hall of Fame as a celebrity, Drew Carey or.
We're scooting by a name. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, even Mick Foley's kind of had an issue with one particular name.
Sure.
And then of course Rock's grandmother was just announced. I think that's well
great.
deserved.
I mean, I think there's a little playing that up because who's involved in the top of the card this year, but certainly not anything to scuffle at.
Right.
What else is on the list? I'm forgetting some names. It's been a long week.
Oh yeah,
Thunderbolt Patterson. I don't have any connection to it.
I don't. Well, I think that's because the other two, and then there's the female wrestler. I can't remember her name.
Bull Nakano, which is great because she's like one of the early females of WWE in terms of like performance and stuff like that. Like there have been some like disaster.
Well, no, I appreciate them acknowledging like when the London Blaze won it because I don't really remember Probably because it wasn't. I don't remember the female division being all that prominent back in the day, so unfortunately. But it appears we are running out of time.
We are out of time. So final thoughts on WrestleMania.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Excited.
And
time to finish the story.
like I said, I will be fine with not only him finishing the story. I just want my Stone Cold return.
Sounds great. Thank you, folks, for watching. For NORCAM Jason, for NORCAM Eddie, you've been watching 1800 Seconds in the Ring Pro Wrestling.
All right,